Welcome to Season 3 of the Yoga Therapy Hour podcast. My name is Amy Wheeler, and I'm your host. We are so happy to tell you all that's happening in the world of yoga therapy, and we love to find guests from all over the world so that we can share and learn and grow together. Some of the things that are happening in Season 3 that we find so exciting is that not only are we continuing with the free gift that we are giving out every single week in Season 2, and you can see more about that in the show notes. But now we are adding a YouTube channel, and you can see all of these podcasts on video. The YouTube channel is called Optimal State with Amy Wheeler. Some people like to watch video. Maybe you want to use it for one of your trainings. These videos on YouTube will be there for you to use for free. We would love your support. We have opened up a Patreon page that is going to help the podcast flourish and grow. You can help us to expand and grow and create more content for you. And we'd love for you to visit the Patreon page, which is called Optimal State and Yoga Therapy Hour Podcast. So let's go into our guest today, and please nourish yourself, take time for yourself, and really relax into listening to the podcast. Welcome, Lori Highland Robertson. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Amy. It's great to be with you as always.
Lori, you are the editorial director for C-Iayt, which means that you edit Yoga Therapy Today, but you're also part of the conference organizing team for, is it both CITAR and SYR, Symposium on Yoga Research, or is it only the CITAR conference?
I help out with both. I'm probably more involved in the Symposium on Yoga Therapy and Research, the practitioner conference.
So let's just talk for a minute. We have 2 annual conferences per year with the International Association of Yoga Therapists. The one in early summer, which this year is June 9th through 11th, just outside Chicago, that's called CITAR, the Symposium of Yoga Therapy and Research. And that one is more for practitioners. Tell me a little bit more, just so I can get in my head, what the difference is between these 2 conferences.
Right. CITAR is more for yoga therapy professionals and other kinds of yoga professionals, as well as integrative health professionals who might be using yoga in their practices or who might be interested in using yoga in their practices. So that's kind of our annual member homecoming, if you will. And then the Symposium on Yoga Research, which typically happens in the fall, that one is more for yoga researchers, student researchers. We are increasingly having yoga therapists and other kinds of yoga professionals and integrative health professionals attending that one as well, but it is much more research oriented. So that's very exciting, I think, that more people are getting plugged into that world and that work. But that one is much more research oriented. So you'll see presentations of the latest research on yoga.
The Symposium on Yoga Research, the one that's held in the fall each year, this year it's October 17th through 19th, 2022, and that's at Kripalu. And one of the reasons I love that one is Kripalu in the fall of the year on the East Coast is just so beautiful. So today we're going to be talking about CITAR. Tuck that into your mind that you might want to think about scheduling October 17th through 19th, 2022 at Kripalu Symposium on Yoga Research. So back to CITAR, which is June 9th through 11th, just outside Chicago this year. It's the first time we're coming back together in 2 years, although there will be an online option also for those people who are not wanting to travel. And the kind of overall theme, the big idea for this year's conference is inclusion and belonging and wanting to hear so many different perspectives on clinical care, different approaches to yoga therapy, different traditions, lineages. I love that we're really embracing all the different ways that yoga therapy can be offered and all the different perspectives on yoga therapy. I love that. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about that, Lori?
Yeah, that really sums it up. This conference is such a wonderful opportunity to get outside of your own perspective and see what else is out there, see what else is being done, see how other people are practicing yoga therapy and what they're bringing to their practices, what background they have, because we all have different backgrounds. Many of us did something else before we came to yoga therapy. So it's a chance to get to meet folks from different backgrounds and see how they're applying yogic practice to their work. So I think it's just an invaluable educational opportunity, but also an opportunity for connection with these different folks, right? We all have different backgrounds, but there's that central idea of using yoga as therapy that we all have and that we're all passionate about. So,
and even though I think we each have kind of a preference for the tradition that we've landed in or the way that we like to practice, at these conferences, I am always getting nourished by the newest ideas out there and things that I never thought of that can inform how I want to practice. So, it's kind of like getting the latest trends, getting out of your own box, and whatever you discover once you come out of your little box, it actually kind of nourishes you and informs you to move ahead with some new threads in your tapestry.
Beautiful. And that's yoga, right? Shining a light on how our perceptions are limited.
That's right.
And this is an incredibly positive way of doing that, but that's yoga practice.
I love what you just said. We start thinking our way is the way, the only way, the best way. And I really love meeting people from all over the world and discovering all the different ways there are to do yoga therapy and that they're all valid. It's just preferences, right? So we have some amazing keynote speakers. We have Marshawn Feltus, who is an activist, and he's actually going to observe us. If I understand this correctly, you can correct me if you need to, but he's going to observe us as a community over a couple of days at the conference and then feed back to us what he sees in us. Is that kind of the summary? Because to me, that is a really innovative, interesting keynote.
I think so. The way Marshawn likes to work is that he draws inspiration from his immediate surroundings, which in and of itself is a lesson. We can all observe how that's happening, how he's doing that, taking in information and then reflecting it back. So I think that is what is going to happen. He's a very dynamic speaker and just so inspirational. So I don't really know what to expect from Marshawn.
I love that part, though. Isn't that so fun to be like, whoa, what's going to happen?
It's whatever it is going to be valuable and, like you said, nourishing.
Yeah. And then we also have a keynote, Catherine Cook-Catone, who's a psychologist and a yoga therapist, and she'll be talking about yoga therapy, embodiment, and pathways to healing. We have Adhana McCarthy, who's a yoga therapist, a U.S. Army major, and a physician assistant. I know her. She is such a lovely, lovely human being. And she's going to talk about uncovering opportunities in yoga therapy advocacy. So I'm really looking forward to that. She is so sharp. Do you want to say anything else about Adhana that you have observed?
She is, like you said, she just is a wonderful person and so accomplished and so smart. And I think that for me, what I'm most looking forward to about her talk is that we get to hear how this smart, accomplished person with a really wide range of personal experience, how has this smart person navigated the US military? And how is she managing to bring yoga therapy into a US military healthcare facility? And so even though I'm not working in a military facility, you know that just hearing how her experience has gone and what she has been able to do and what she's learned from it, you know that that is going to be of value for all of us. So I'm really looking forward to her talk.
Well, on that note, I am teaming up with Marlisa Sullivan, who is now working full time for the Veterans Administration, and Allison Whitehead, who is one of the top level people in the Veterans Administration, kind of pushing yoga therapy forward. And the three of us are going to be giving a workshop on all the different ways that we can collect data to help support people in knowing just how amazing yoga therapy is. So whether it's official research, like academic research, there's certain ways to collect data for that. There are certain things that we can do for program outcomes, right? That we want to show the organization that the work that we're doing is actually having a positive impact and making a difference. So really looking at all the different ways we can collect data, some research, some program, evaluation, but also just personal data. Like, do you want to get feedback on how your work is impacting people and use that to refine and transform how you do your work? So I'm really excited about that. We're going to be using some examples of research and program eval that we've been using with a researcher from the Veterans Administration. And I'm just really excited about that workshop that Marlisa Sullivan, Allison Whitehead, and myself will be doing. It kind of ties into Adhana's work.
It does. And that's really one of the important practical pieces that I'm really glad that you're bringing to the conference. We have to have ways of quantifying our work. And so it'll be really helpful to have your perspective on, some really clear evidence-informed ways of collecting data, as you said, collecting outcomes, really practical, but also something that's going to be approachable for the average yoga therapist in the course of their practice. So I think that's going to be wonderful.
And that workshop theme came out of people coming to us, Allison, Marlisa, and myself, saying, hey, can you help me do some research on my work, without the understanding of all the different ways to collect data and how much effort that takes to do a formal peer-reviewed research study versus program evaluation versus feedback for how you're doing as a yoga therapist. So I think for a lot of people, that's going to be very clarifying to help them understand, where do I need to get more support when I collect this data versus what are the simple things I can do just to understand my own practice better. So I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you to you and the team for inviting Allison and Marlisa and I to do that. So let's talk a little bit about the logistics of the conference. It is June 9th through 11th, 2022, just outside Chicago at the Lincolnshire Marriott Resort. So that's where the in-person conference is going to be. But as I've said, you and the conference team have been working hard to also offer a track that is virtual. And it has almost the same content as the in-person conference, but at a reduced price and the ease of staying at home and still getting all the information. So the in-person conference outside Chicago is $595. The virtual conference is $395. And whenever I pay those fees, I think of it not only for my own nourishment, but also as a gift to C-Iayt to keep the field going. Those of us who can afford to give and support, it just feels good to know that C-Iayt is receiving that nourishment. And there are those of us who actually, that's a whole lot of money, and that isn't always possible to spend $595 or $395 for a conference. So what are the options for people who maybe need a discount of some sort, Lori?
That's a great question. And yeah, these conferences are incredibly expensive. Just as I'm delving in and becoming part of the support team and the planning team, IOIT is not raking in the profit on these. I can promise you that. But as you said, it really is supportive for the organization. And so the organization in turn wants to support everybody who possibly can attend to do so. So as you said, there are discounts available for folks who are from countries identified by the World Bank as low or lower middle income. So those folks can access discounts. We also offer discounts for people of the global majority for whom a discount would be supportive. And you can check out the details of those on the registration page for the conference. And it's also right on the homepage. It's at the bottom of iayt.org/Sitar 2022. So that's iayt.org/SYTAR 2022. And you'll find the information on the discount options at the bottom of that page.
So that web address that you just gave is where people can really go and get a whole lot more information and specific details about the conference. And that's www.iayt.org/Sitar with a Y 2022.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Lori, for being here today and helping us understand the difference between the June conference, Sitar, and the fall conference, which is much more focused only on yoga research, the Symposium on Yoga Research, often held at Kripalu. This year, it's October 17th through 19th. Thanks,
Amy.
In today's podcast episode, I talked to Anneke Sips from the Netherlands. She's a psychiatric nurse, and we kind of take a wave together as if we were surfing and allow ourselves to just be in the ocean and see where the wave takes us. And it's a really sweet conversation. I had the good fortune of being with Anneke and some other friends in Japan for about 3 weeks back in maybe 2019, if I remember correctly. And one of the sweetest memories I have of her, and we really didn't know each other that well. And there was a group of us. So it wasn't like we were super, super close or connected at the time, but I had a knee injury. It was a torn meniscus. And I was in a lot of pain. And if you've been to Japan, you know it's all walking and going up and down stairs and cobblestone streets. So having a torn meniscus with a great big heavy suitcase was not ideal, to say the least. And we were in one of the oldest temples in Japan. And every night I just felt like crying all night long because I was in so much pain. Didn't know I had a torn meniscus at the time. And we were in this temple and we were all lined up on our little futon mats. So imagine like 16 women, literally no space between each futon, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row. And it's the middle of the night and I'm sleeping and I'm trying to use my breathing to calm myself because the pain in my knee is so bad. And I feel these little fingertips on my toes. And I'm like, okay, that's either a really big mouse or someone right next to me is touching my toes. And it was Anneke giving me just a little bit of love in the middle of the night. She must have known I was hurting. So that's one of the sweet memories I have of she and I, and when we got to know each other. So in this episode, some of the highlights for me are talking about this idea of awareness as a yoga therapy tool, just becoming aware of what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what sensations are happening in your body, that cannot be overlooked. We shouldn't just like jump past that to get to the postures and the breathing and the meditation. Like the awareness, the checking in with what is happening inside of me is a major part of yoga therapy. And I feel so strongly about this that we have created the Optimal State mobile app for iPhone and Android, which will be out for our beta testers in May, but probably for the general public a little closer to June. And basically, it's an awareness tool where you check in multiple times a day with what's happening in your gunas, Vata Pitta Kapha or Rajas Tamas Sattva. And it's a way for you to get to know you and understand, how do I feel in the mornings? And is there anything I could do to feel better in the mornings? How do I feel in the middle of the night if I'm awake? How does the start of my workday differ from the end of my workday? These are all very important patterns to observe in ourselves, and to use the ancient tools of yoga and Ayurveda to have that self-awareness and monitoring it's just one of the biggest blessings of my life. So I'm really excited to share that new app with you. There's a free version and a paid version with a few more features. So in addition, we have a companion ebook called The Gold Zone that is also free. If you go to the website, it's www.goldzonebook.com. You can download this new book that I wrote. It took me 4 years to write it, and you can just download it for free. So that is kind of the companion to the app. And if you want to know more about the app, you could go to the website www.theoptimalstateapp.com. All right. So the awareness is something we talk about. And then we also get into this other area, which I think is so common for yogi type people. And that is that many of us came from a religious upbringing that didn't serve us, maybe harmed us, that maybe as adults we don't connect to, maybe we never did connect to, but we're forced to do it. And we're kind of finding our way through, what does religion and or spirituality mean to me now? And how can I work with spirituality or religion or Mother Nature or whatever you want to call it to come home to myself and be supported and nourished and let go of self-doubt and basically have the waves of life support us instead of paddling so hard. Anneke has this beautiful story towards the end of the episode about surfing and this realization that she had that is very deeply connected to her spirituality and her religious upbringing versus how she's viewing the support and nourishment that she's receiving from the universe now. So I think you'll enjoy it. And I welcome you to Anneke Sips. I would like to introduce you to Anneke Sips. And she just told me her last name is Sips, like 2 sips of tea, which I think is sweet. Welcome, Anneke.
Hi. Thank you for having me. This is so great. Yeah.
Well, we're happy you're here. And you are from the Netherlands, and you're a community psychiatric nurse, which I can't wait to hear all about. But you've just moved 45 minutes from Amsterdam to the ocean.
Yes.
And now you get to surf regularly.
Yes, that's true. So this town it's a city and it's called The Hague. And next to The Hague is Scheveningen. It's kind of the same thing, but that's where I live, is next to the beach. And that's right. I started to surf again. Actually, I started 15 years ago. And well, maybe I can also share a little experience later, because it already gave me some really beautiful insight of things that I can use in my life during these first few surf experiences. So yeah, but that's where I live right now.
And you've just taken a new job as a community psychiatric nurse. You've been nursing for decades, as I understand it, but tell us a little bit about your history of being a psychiatric nurse and then also your new job.
Yeah, well, the journey started when I was 18 years old. Then I went to nursing school, and pretty fast I went into the hospital or like institute to really work as a nurse as well. So I was studying and nursing at the same time. So I was really 19 years old when I started my first nursing job, like in a clinic, working with the older people, always psychiatry, because I was very clear from the beginning that psychiatry was my kind of nursing. I just actually wanted to work in psychiatry, and nursing was the way of getting there. So I started when I was 18, 19, and now I'm 42. So quite some years. And over the time, my job changed because like I said, I started clinical and working as a student. Then I graduated, had my first job, and I worked with adolescents who were in the clinic for the first time. So there was a lot of observation and diagnosis. And this is what I did for like 7 years. And then working with the smaller kids. So first adolescents and the smaller kids, again, observation and diagnose. So all these kids came in, like there's issues. So I learned very well to look and observe a person, and to look a person, like already then actually, to look at a person in different levels. So not only like, and especially in psychiatry, it's not only what's happening in the mind, but what's happening in people's lives, and what's the family and the history and school. And you look on a different, like all different perspectives to a person. And I continued my job like this until at some point I went back to school to learn just different skills, and I wanted to work also in a different way. So I got some more papers. And then I started to work, the community psychiatric nurse. I think this is how, so first a regular psychiatric nurse and then a community psychiatric nurse. So I went to people's homes. So more into the communities and in people's houses. I went to visit them there. And then I did this for a couple of years. And then I moved. This is just all in a nutshell, right? And then I moved from Amsterdam to The Hague, and that's where I am now. And I stopped working in psychiatry like a year and a half ago, but now I wanted to discover the city a little bit, and I thought it was a good idea to go work in doctors' offices. And actually it came on my path a little bit. I was networking just with some doctors, that friends of friends. They said you need to meet them because talk about yoga therapy with them because they're holistic doctors. So I went there and they said, wow, we have such a good connection, and actually our nurse is missing. We need somebody in our practice. Is this something for you? And I was like, wow, I don't know. It's not, this is not the reason why I'm here, but I thought, well, I wanted to explore the city and ground myself a little bit in the city. So why not one day? And then another doctor's office was like, great. Do you want some more work? I said, well, why not? So now I'm in 3 doctor's offices. 3 different days. So, and it's really cool because I see a lot of patients a day, a little bit too many, because I used to work in my own practice as a yoga therapist, and I'm taking much more time and space. And now it's like, again, back into this system of it's a little bit too much. Sometimes, I feel very much, honestly, like a milk cow, to be honest. Like, it's really like I'm being drained. It's like, okay, everything I have is going in there, and like I'm squeezed at the end of the day. And so I'm now finding my balance here, where, how can I do this? So the third one was already a temporary place. So that's good. And I'm not going to add more. So that will end in 4 weeks. And for me, the balance is to do this 2 days a week. And then the rest of the week, I'm just, running my business and seeing my yoga therapy clients. And that's for me a perfect balance for now. Yeah, but it's very interesting because the people come to the doctor's office, and one of my jobs is to see what kind of support they need. All the mental supports, all the people with any mental issues go to the doctor, the GP, and the GP sends them to me. So I get all these people, and then I see them, some observation, and then we decide what is needed, what's going on. I can also send them to other places. And of course, with many people, I speak about yoga therapy. They love it. And I send them to or my colleagues, yoga therapist here in the city, or to my own practice. And it's very nice.
Is yoga therapy covered under any kind of healthcare system or insurance, or once they come from the GP where you've seen them, then do they have to pay privately out of pocket to meet with you or your colleague as a yoga therapist?
Right now, yes. In this situation, yes, because now my practice is this fully private practice. But before, when I was still in Amsterdam, I worked in the mental health service doing yoga therapy. And then they were going into the mental health service, and the care that they got was yoga therapy. So, but then it was covered. Yeah. But this was only possible because I'm an RN also. So right now the rules and regulations are like that you cannot be covered at the moment for yoga therapy if you're not, let's say, having another kind of role as well.
And Anneke, in that situation in Amsterdam, when they would refer kind of under their roof and get it paid for, was your scope of practice as a psychiatric nurse, a yoga therapist, or both? Or maybe you were under the scope of practice of nursing, but you were able to use some of the tools and techniques of yoga therapy. What was the situation? Of course.
Well, it's always everything, because I am everything, but officially on paper, I was a nurse. So, but then we worked with all nurses with special talents, let's say. So some were like art superpowers. So my superpower is yoga therapy. But I also had colleagues who were psychologists or nurses, and they were art therapists or psychologists of nurses with other specializations, let's say. So people who came to me, they knew they were coming for yoga therapy. And actually it worked even the other way around, because they found out about me and they went into therapy so that they could get yoga therapy this way. So on the website, you could see Anneke Sips, yoga therapist. For the insurance, it was then the RN was also important, of course.
And did you get to spend enough quality time with them in that situation because the organization allowed you to?
Definitely, yes. But that was like 1 hour every session. Sometimes I could do some longer sessions if necessary, but the normal time was 1 hour, and I could do this every week. I could do this for 1 year and for sometimes 2 years. So so for many clients I've been seeing for many years, depending on what's necessary, because I'm really pro empowerment. So as little as needed, but also if needed, or and if it's possible, then it's also fine. For many people, it's very also nice to learn how to create a relationship with somebody, especially working a lot with trauma and attachment issues. And sometimes it would take already 2 years, honestly, to just be together before there was a certain level of trust to go any deeper. So I was very happy to have that opportunity, and we would also take that opportunity. So some people, did see them for 2 years, and we knew there was a very complex trauma situation, and it would take some time before there was enough safety. And even now, not working there anymore, many of my clients, they went with me when I stopped working there in my own practice. So I still see them. So
I wanted to just repeat what you just said, because you said 2 years to create enough safety to start doing the work. And that's been my experience too, is, because I specialize in mental health also, not as a psychiatric nurse, obviously, but literally just building enough trust to even tiptoe into the waters of healing can sometimes take 2 to 3 years.
Definitely. And now I met a new woman only recently here in the new practice. And I feel that this is going to be the same kind of situation. But this is my situation is different now, because here I do not have 1 or 2 years. I do not have 1 hour. And I'm here temporary because it's on this day and I know it's going to end. And then I know that she's a young woman. I know that she does not have the financial situation that she can afford to come to me. And I'm going to do it anyway. Because I always have a few people in my caseload that are not, they're not able to pay, but that's okay, because it's just necessary. And I told her, like, I think she's young, like she's 19. And I said, I think you're a person who needs some time, right? To trust people. And she said, yes. So I think this is going to be situation like that. And the story she is telling, I have the feeling it's a very complex trauma case,
Well,
but it will take time. Yeah.
Thank you for pointing out that I think we should all have a certain number of people in our caseload that we are assisting because it's the right thing to do and they need assistance. So that's beautiful. The other thing you said was you're the type of yoga therapist that wants to self-empower people instead of making them, say, dependent on you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I think that's one of the things that differentiates yoga therapy from a lot of other healing modalities is that we've been successful when the person is self-empowered enough to take on life with their own heart and soul and mind. So can you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, I think this is the core of the work. And the funny part is, actually, in all my nursing studies, as a basic nurse or especially in the community psychiatric nursing, this is like one of the most important things. So we learn always empowerment and being in your own power. We call this in Dutch, being in your own power. We read books about it, and this is super important. And at the end of the day, we are not doing it because the system does not allow this to happen, because then at the same time we need to follow certain structures, and especially time and insurance structures and all kinds of protocols. We need to work according to certain protocols, what actually makes it very difficult to offer people space, because I think space is a code word here, is a very important word, space and time, to figure it out, like what actually is my power and where, who am I and where can I ground my feet, like in this moment, but also in life, like who am I and how did I end up here? And how can I really start to underline my own qualities? Like, first of all, what are my qualities? And it's sometimes so difficult for people. It takes some time and space to figure it out. And if it's not there and you need to follow a protocol, and it's like,
and move them through the system and show these improvements every week on this chart. And I
exactly,
think that's one thing people, at least in the United States, are saying, oh, we want to be covered by insurance and we want to be licensed. And I think people don't understand that with that comes exactly what you're talking about. Exactly. It's not like we get to have all the time and space and then the insurance company pays us all this money. We end up getting very little money from the insurance company, forced practically to use a protocol approach, X amount of minutes with the client. It's interesting. I think it changes yoga therapy to the point of maybe we don't even recognize it.
Right now, I choose to not being covered by the insurance. Even like it's not even possible, but we could go in that direction to make it possible. And I went there, I was going there. I was trying to set up an organization, and I was putting a lot of energy in that direction until I realized, wait a minute, is this really what we want actually? So it's very interesting. At the same time, because this was like my personal, individual, solo practice, still it's a little bit like this. But I'm thinking bigger in setting up creating a bigger organization for yoga therapy, like integrative yoga therapy, broad spectrum support for trauma, treatment for trauma, and other things. But I think trauma is the base of everything, let's say. So I'm looking for a solution, how to make it financially work, to create a bigger organization where more people can be helped, or the insurance can be involved, but they cannot overpower the organization. They cannot control how we do our work, because I think this is where things are going a little bit wrong. Because it's also happening in other parts of healthcare, and I don't think that's always very healthy. It works now, things are rolling, but I think it can be much better. We make quantity, but I'm not sure if the quality is still there. And I love to work from a quality base. And another thing that is important is that it's inclusive for everybody. So also the people without too much money, and especially also that group of people. I would love to serve the people that are not working because they are somewhere in between whatever in society. Like I love to work, and I did a lot of work with psychosis and schizophrenia, and those are often people who are not in the working markets anymore. They're not producing, they're not working, but that also means they're just sitting at home and not having not that much income. So how can they afford like 100 euros per hour for therapy a year long? It's not possible. That's why I'm doing this for free for some people, because I do want to support some people. But yeah.
Well, I have some really exciting ideas about that, which I'll talk about in the end of the show after I let you go. But I don't want to take away from your time talking about those ideas. So, one of the questions I asked you going into this interview was, what do you think the most important mechanism or tool is that makes yoga therapy work? And you talked about us being generalist and specialist. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's so much to say here, first of all, because I think that the tools are individually, the tools are very beautiful, but also what makes yoga very special, yoga therapy very special, is that we have the whole set of tools that we as a generalist can use in a balanced way. And I think in this way, it doesn't matter who is in front of us, but we can just serve everybody. And
can we back up and just have you list off like 10, we can do it together if you want, like 10 tools in the yoga therapy toolbox? Because we even have 200-hour yoga teachers, trainers listening now, and physicians and nurses that are like, what is yoga therapy? So when you say we have all these tools, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, what I see in my, even today in my doctor's office, where I have a very short time with people, I see many people, I'm using quite some tools already. And I think the first most important one is awareness. And this only that tool. And it's, you could skip by it very, very quickly, because you think, awareness, that's such a easy one, and we already know, and this is mindfulness, and everybody did a 8-week mindfulness course, and we know about, of course, awareness. Yes. But then if you really stop a moment there in this subject of awareness, because if you are really practicing awareness, you can add on a lot of qualities to this awareness. You can, like, in what way do you want to be aware towards yourself? And maybe notice, where are you, first of all, and in what way? What are the qualities of your awareness? Like, do you always point out all the mistakes you make, or how stupid you are? Or what is your awareness? What are you aware of? And how can we train ourselves to becoming aware in a way that is actually helpful? And this sounds super basic and simple, but if that could be the whole practice in itself. And like loving kindness, with curiosity, with compassion, with patience. Patience, I love it. This is such again, sounds so simple, but I could make a whole series of sessions about like the awareness and patience, and how Mother Earth is our example here, and how we can combine this. Like, it can be already very beautiful. And if you look at the tool of awareness, and then you look at the qualities of this tool, then you can look to all the other tools, because all these tools, you can see them separately, but you can also add like different qualities that you can add to the different tools. So then it becomes such a complete and full box. So let's say awareness. We can say focus, like maybe more meditative practices to maybe learn focus. We have mantra. We can combine those with awareness, with compassionate or curiosity, awareness. We can use a mantra and to reach maybe a state of meditation. So you can combine all these.
A bhavana, visualization.
Bhavana, and like what do you want to cultivate here?
Breathing, pranayama.
Breathing, pranayama. Like, you can use them by itself. You can use those together. And if you're using a mantra meditation, of course, you are using the breath already. You can bring in some asana, so you can move your arms up as you inhaling, and you lower your arms down with a mantra, for example. if focus is more your thing, then maybe you repeat the mantra 5 times as you lower your arms. Like there is a world of combinations possible. And I love it because we can use those as little techniques separately, and we can make it into one practice or a series of practices. So here in my doctor's... Yeah?
Oh, I just want to say, when you're talking, I'm just seeing those beautiful little Russian dolls where one little doll is inside a little bit bigger doll, like, or you can take all the dolls apart and put them separate. That's what I'm imagining. Yeah.
That is so nice. And then depending on what kind of person you are, you put the dolls perfectly aligned, so you know exactly what to expect from big to small. Or maybe you're a person, you put the dolls all over the place and it makes you a little bit clear. Or actually you are not a person like that, but you do put the dolls in all the different places because you need a little bit of that energy. Maybe if you're more leaning towards depression and you're like, no, tell me where the dolls are, tell me the tools. And maybe you actually want to explore a little bit like, oh, there's a hidden tool, or how can we use a tool that you didn't expect? So to get people a little bit, maybe in a different kind of energy in that moment. Yeah. Or maybe I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Yes,
like I was just keep using your doll example.
And I think that's what makes, think of how many different mantras are out there. Think of how many different movements are out there. How many different breathing techniques for energizing and calming, how many different intentions, visualizations. The combination of just those, say, 4 or 5 tools, which is even
endless,
a small number. We haven't talked about ritual. We haven't talked, it's endless. And it's, as you point out, it's specific to the individual and it's not protocol driven. So tell us a little bit about that.
For example, I was just working with a woman. She came here in my practice and she did a mindfulness course before. She told me, like, she's telling a lot of things. I'm asking a lot of questions. That's my job. So I got to know a lot of this person. And now she is stuck because everybody was telling her she needs to do this mantra. Everything is going to be okay. I said, okay, well, with all this information, do you allow me to try to create something that, that maybe you can take home to practice? And she would like it. So we stood up from this chair and then already she said, wow, that's so different, because she's always sitting in a chair and start thinking. So we stood up and the sun was shining inside of the room. So we were standing with our face in the sun from just behind the window. And this is actually a practice I've learned from my teachers, E.G. Mohan, Indra Mohan. And already standing there, just that. And then from there, I said, don't worry if it's not going to be very difficult. We're just going to bring a little bit movement here and a mantra, and just try to follow me and just try to do it and see how it makes you feel. So it was very simple, bringing the hands up with the inhalation and bringing the hands down with the exhalation. And then we were opening the palms with the inhale, chanting mantra 1 time, and then bring the fingertips onto the chest. And, this was the mantra also that was related to the sun. And I'll explain to her the qualities of the sun that we're looking for. So it's not the ball that is hanging there, but it's like the qualities in the sun. And the beauty of it, those qualities are already within you. And the more words and the more Dutch sentences we're using, the more reason you have to think, or, your mind is just going all over the place. And it makes you tired, right? And you're missing the point, because what you really try to do is bring yourself in the moment and have this beautiful affirmation. Actually, she was using, she called it a mantra. Like many people, they mix those words a little bit. And actually, when she said everything is going to be okay, it was really pushing her to everything must be okay. And she wasn't able to connect to these words. So I thought that's like, I don't know, she maybe was reading it somewhere, or she got it from somewhere, but it didn't really connect. So it's not the right thing for her in this moment. But I did know that she was willing to use a certain practice like this. So I made it very more simple, and she is so much cognitive in her head. So I used Sanskrit words. She didn't understand that word. So it's way easier for her to focus on the moments and on her breath, and not on the meaning of the word so much.
I love that. I think so many times when we just say words to ourselves, it almost gets blocked. Like the prefrontal cortex is so active and I don't like that word, or that didn't happen in my life. And you're literally almost meditating on unhelpful things and fighting with yourself, as opposed to what I heard you just say was just feel it, experience it, see if these qualities resonate with you, use your body a little bit so it's an embodied experience and not just a cognitive experience.
Yeah. And also because she's a person who's very cognitive, like perfectionistic, driven, like she burnout, always high functioning. And she's like, I don't know myself anymore. Like, I'm not all that right now because I'm home with burnout. And now who am I? And there's so much thinking about all that and what she should be and should have done. And so I allowed her to practice with the mantra that she didn't understand. And I was checking in with her if she was okay with that. Like, are you able to do this? Can you surrender to this not knowing for a moment? And she could. And actually, it was really relaxing for her. And she said, wow, I hear the birds also outside. And it was so nice. And this was like a 2-minute practice, it was so simple. And then afterwards, because she is this cognitive person, I did explain a little bit to her. And she said, well, I don't know if I can remember everything. Should I write it down? I said, no. We do this the Hawaiian way. Just I tell you a story and you see what sticks, and the stuff that doesn't stick, it's okay. It's actually pretty simple what I'm going to say anyway, because, I was working with Mitraya Namaha. I said, this is just one of the names of the sun. So it's about the qualities of the sun. It's warm.
The sun is friendly. Mitra.
Yeah. So it's befriending. I said, it's really about befriending. And it's not about you must remember and you're pushing yourself. This is about friendship and what, So we had this little conversation about friendship. Super nice. And actually, as it has a lot to do with everything that we were just practicing. Yeah, without the feeling that she had to remember everything, or it became a very cognitive kind of thing. Just, you know what I mean?
Feel that lightness, spaciousness, friendliness, that kind of overall sense of well-being. Then you've accomplished it. You got it right.
Exactly. Yeah. But that was actually the only thing that I was trying to do here with this practice, is giving her this experience. And actually, she was very excited about it. She's like, oh, I really want to try this at home. So is there a place in your house where you can sit in the morning or stand and then facing the sun with your face? Oh yeah, I can sit there. So we were thinking a little bit about what location she would choose in her house. It's so integrative. I love it. Yeah.
It is so integrative, and this is why it's hard to explain to someone in 30 seconds what we do, right? Because that person might have something very different than another client, right? It's hard to explain. How would you define yoga therapy to someone in a few short sentences?
In this doctor office is great because I can have these little experiences and you don't have to explain much anymore because people feel it, right? But how would I explain it? I would say, well, actually yoga therapy is just yoga. It's not another thing. It's yoga, but we apply it for people who actually have complaints. We try to support the person in finding solutions to these complaints. And
specific to them.
Yeah, specific to them.
And using many more tools than the average yoga class, which is mainly asana.
Yeah. Exactly. It's often, or sometimes the breath, or there are some tools, but I think it's very important to see the person who's in front of you and make it like specifically for this person. And also the one-on-one situation, I think it's very important. And in this situation, and it comes back to the empowerment, I try to help a person so that they can create their own tool. Like now, for this woman, this was like the first time. But if I'm really working with somebody in yoga therapy, well, in the beginning, you just also teach the tools and what is asana, what is the breath, and there's you teach some different things. But I always try to give back the power to them. Like, okay, what would you choose? Like, which one do you like better? So we can do this or this. And because they're asking me, do I need how many times? Well, how much time do you have in your day? And do I need to do this in the morning or in the evening? And I'm like, okay, go try. And next time when I see you, we'll see what worked best for you. And for some people who need to learn a little bit more self-compassion, they choose the day of the moment that fits them better. And people working with addictions, I say, what is more difficult for you? The morning. Okay, we go for the morning. You know what I mean? So it also depends a little bit on the person. So yeah, but I will feel resistant. Yeah, but that's, and if you're really in a change management situation, then maybe this is where you want to work with. And if you explain this, so psychoeducation is very important, I think. Like if you explain, I always explain about what is yoga, and I can talk in storytelling, and they really like to listen to that. And then I'll explain something about the polyvagal theories, like standards. Everybody who works with me, they know about yoga, they know about the polyvagal, they know about internal family systems, they know about all that stuff. So even if you're a client or you're in my therapy trainings or whatever training, you get to know all that stuff. So you really become very empowered because you understand your system. And like, okay, how are we what's your story? Again, what is your story? What's going on? And what do you think fits you? How would you do that for yourself? Yeah. And also what you like to do? What do you feel attracted to? And then create, and to guide this kind of situation, you can wake me up for that. I love it.
It's like a dream world, right? To help people come into communion and connection with their deepest self again. Like, who doesn't want to do that?
Of course, but how crazy that I never felt this excited. Like, of course, I felt always very excited about my work because I'm a helper. Like I'm a nurse by nature. I think I'm really a nurse by nature, but still, I don't know. I was never that excited about, yes, I can put a needle in somebody. My soul, although I kind of liked it a little bit, but that's another topic.
We won't go there.
But
you should take that to your mentor.
It's part of the job, and these are just skills that I was just injecting people. I never mind doing all these technical things as well, but yeah.
So Anneke, you spent a lot of time helping us understand what you do as a psychiatric nurse and as a yoga therapist to help people cultivate qualities that will improve their life, give them a sense of well-being. How about you when you have difficulties or disappointments, either at work or in your personal life? How do you handle that?
That's a good question. And actually, a few different things are popping up in my mind. Well, first of all, practice what you preach. So I'm trying my best to practice what I preach. And also, the education, the psychoeducation I'm teaching others. Of course, I'm also integrating this and learn so much about the system myself. And it's very hopeful. I feel that also I know that all the qualities that I need are already within me, even when I feel insecure, or of course that happens to me as well, or I'm not feeling good enough. This is actually a big one. Not feeling I belong here. I should be in front of this training. And then of course I know I studied so hard, and I know I have so much experience, and still feeling our thoughts coming from deep inside, who do you think you are, teaching other people about that stuff? And, these insecurities. And so realizing that also I'm dealing with my parts and with the things that happened in my life. And also I am doing my best to underline my qualities and to grow my inner companion, or however you want to call it, and strengthening my inner self with
your own little friendly sunshine.
Yeah, my own little friendly sunshine. And honestly, there is the practices that I teach, and that what we were talking about. Of course, I practice myself as well, and it was really helpful for me to learn these practices from my teachers and study so much with them. And the last time I was with them in India, that was actually in 2020, before all the craziness started. And in the beginning of 2020, I was in Chennai and South in Tamil with the Mohans. And so a team that I was working with already for a little bit longer, like for quite some years, I think. But especially in that retreat there was like 10 days of devotion. And this devotion practice is very helpful for myself, because I feel after going back and forward with asana and, and doing all these kind of things with the body, like I keep doing this, but there's one thing that I didn't dive super deep into, because I don't know, I felt also some resistance from inside, coming from a religious background. And I'm not like anti-religion or whatever, because with curiosity, I explored a lot of stuff in my life. But still, I was exploring, but going a little bit deeper, that's something else. Like really allowing myself to go a little bit deeper and really find what is there. And of course, India offers a great opportunity, not only India, but also being with my teachers, that is one great opportunity, but also being in India, being alone in Chennai, also the chance to wander around and see to what my heart really feels connected or attracted. A little bit odd, I thought. And again, there's all these little voices like, what do you think? What do you know about all this stuff? I was like, okay, I'm just wandering around, see where my connection brings me. And this actually was a very beautiful, beautiful journey. And I ended up finding this little temple, and I found in the corner of the temple this built-in temple, and there was this goddess figure. And I was actually putting my eye on Lakshmi. That was a little bit, I was like following Lakshmi, but I ended up with only a small Lakshmi sitting on the knee of Harigrivan. So this is the god with a horse head. And I don't know why, but I just kept being attracted to the statue. And before I knew, I was like going crazy in Chennai, finding another temple and feeling really sad if I couldn't find the temple. And I was like, what's going on here? Why am I feeling sad and still it was a little bit hard to understand what I was doing and why I was doing it. But that was not my goal. I wanted to just explore and see if I could open myself a little bit deeper to this. So this was the beginning. And then this whole retreat followed, where I just, there was just a deepening of understanding of the philosophy of the yoga and the devotion part and the surrendering to what? Like what does that mean for me? So it's a lot. Yeah. So it's very much about meaning finding to me, which is a very important topic, because if you look at that subject, then the average daily things can become like a spiritual practice. And I think this is also an issue with a lot of people these days, like the missing of meaning and finding meaning in little things or maybe in stories or nature, especially that. Started a really beautiful journey for me, and also realizing and respecting myself for, having a background as I have, like very religious, but in a direction that I didn't want to go. And then so back to, okay, need to figure it out myself. What is the meaning of life and what is the meaning of death? And exploring these topics of life and death I think is very precious, and it's a very important ingredient also for me personally in the place where I am in my life. It's very important to feel grounded and also to start to understand certain things, like certain things about myself, why I reacted in a certain way. Like, of course, then going back from Chennai to the Netherlands, very different situation. And there's no temples here. And I really miss it a little bit. Also, just to... I don't really know why, but I do feel attracted to certain things. And I feel this very much with India, but also very much in Hawaii, for example. Don't ask me why, but for me, this, like, I really feel like I've been there in a past life or something, which brings me to nature. Because when I think of Hawaii and I think of nature, been there many times though in Hawaii, I feel so attracted. And also the surfing, and like, I'm not a good surfer or anything like this, but I love what nature can teach us and what we can learn from these activities. Or one little example that I can give, and that's how I started also when I started to say, like, I can, pick up my surfing here. like I said, I'm not a good surfer. I feel like super much like a beginner. But when I was in Hawaii 15 years ago, I was dating an American guy who was living in Hawaii. So that's why I was there for longer times and many times. And we went surfing often, but I was feeling like I was working like crazy, paddling. I worked so hard, paddle, and missing almost every wave, which was fine. I was like, I'm a beginner. It's okay. I still enjoyed. Like,
I got a good workout.
Really, yeah, I got a crazy workout, and I really enjoyed it anyway. Last Sunday, I was in the waves, and there was a very beautiful experience because I was there 15 years later, again on the waves, and I didn't paddle so hard. And I felt like, the wave's coming. And actually, I just have to move my body a little bit, pedal a little bit. And instead of me trying to catch the wave was catching me. So back to surrendering and nature. And I'm learning, and this is, I think it's a result of all these practices. If it's yoga, if it's my journey in Chennai, or, my yoga journeys, surfing, nature, I am okay to not work my ass off and try to grab it and try to do it well. I can allow myself to be carried by nature. Wow, this like almost makes me cry if I think about that. I felt this was such an important moment to feel that I was carried by the wave. I was like, oh my God.
And, yes. And it's so hard to put into words because it's not a cognitive experience. But is there any way to describe how to allow that to happen? Because so many of us want to be carried by the waves. So many of us love the idea of surrender, but getting on top of the wave through surrender, it's like a mystery. So what experience did you have that allowed you to wait for the wave to carry you?
Well, I think this experience of me were carried by the wave was kind of a result of the earlier things that I've been doing, or even more undoing. I think it's like one of these moments where it becomes very clear of what I've been doing these past years, and especially these past 2 years, I think were challenging for many people and eye-opening in many different ways for many people, and reflecting on life and death for many people, also for me. And I've been waking up to a few ideas, and I feel like, this is so profound. And yes, it's too simple almost to explain. Like, I felt like I was carried by nature. That's it. But this is not.
You set the intention 2 years earlier, and started exploring the intention to surrender. Like, you weren't even sure. It sounds like that you wanted to surrender, what that meant. So
I didn't know.
Yeah.
So it was also trust. I think another key word here is trust. And that's not something you can buy on the market. It's not something that but this is a practice, and something that slowly over time you start to understand a little bit deeper and deeper. But trust in what? And what do I trust? And in my background, growing up very religiously, which was not my thing, feel like, so what is actually the meaning of life? And what is my spirituality? I have to figure it out with curiosity, trying to figure it out now, I feel plucking a little bit of fruits of that. Like, I find my own spiritual grounding here. And for me right now, and in the stage where I am now, it's called Mother Earth. Like, for me, this is really and I know, because whenever I say that, I feel it. I also think back to certain moments, the most difficult moments in my life. And I was thinking, why actually did I feel not afraid? Like, I was dying almost once and I wasn't afraid. And all of a sudden I start to understand now, years later, I felt carried. but I didn't know. I just felt it. But more and more, and this is also through practice and understanding and etc., I start to understand why I did feel carried. And this is personal. It's not like my story and my feeling of being carried, it's for everybody. No. But I think it's beautiful if we can help people in their own personal journey to find like, who am I and what actually is carrying me?
Right.
Because I believe that we all are carried, you know, if not Mother Earth, then it's whatever, Father Sky, or it is maybe your own bubble. I don't know, but, or each other, definitely, like our community, because I do think we are all connected. So either way, but we're not all alone, just flying objects in space. That I don't think we are that.
No.
You know, although sometimes I feel like that, like I'm going all directions, but no, I'm just kidding. But yeah.
But what I love that you just said is, especially in this instance when you may have been dying, you felt it. And when you said you're out there surfing, you felt it. I think that's the key. Again, it's not cognitive. You can't think your way into surrender. You can't think your way through being supported. You have to feel your way. And just how you wandered around through Chennai looking for temples and seeing what you were drawn to. You had a willingness to explore. You trusted yourself enough to walk alone and feel and breathe and sense Hayagriva and Lakshmi. Like that willingness to do that journey is the foundation of what happened to you last Sunday when you were carried. Exactly. And I don't think we have to get to total surrender or get to being carried today. We just have to set the intention, start to explore.
Like it's not something you can plan anyway. It was not like, okay, last Sunday, let's get this experience of surrendering and being carried. It's not like that. Yeah. It just happened to you, and it's like it's just a small moment because it's just like the waves catch and like and then it happened again. So thank God it happened a few times. I was like, aha, this is how it works. That is interesting.
You understood the assignment.
Yes. But I do know that we can practice this. This is why, back to the empowerment, this is not why I'm not telling a person, this is how you should breathe. This is why I'm inviting a person. Let's see if you can try to notice your own breath, and maybe you notice your own rhythm, and maybe you find your own rhythm, find your own breath, find your way, your own way, because that's the only place where you can at the end of the day find yourself. Like you are not finding yourself in my landscape. Well, right. Now we are a little bit hanging around in each other's landscape, which is great, inspirational, fun, everything. But at the end of the day, it's all that. But you will find yourself in your own landscape. And maybe you meet me there. Hi. But you know what I mean? You're in the center of your universe. I'm in the center of my universe. And we can wave to each other and blow kisses. You know what I mean? But
I completely, and that's yoga, right?
Yeah.
You go all the way back to like Yoga Sutra 1.3. It's that the goal is to find you, your deepest connection with you. And how would I know what that is for Anneke, or how would Anneke know what that is for Amy?
Yeah, exactly.
Give me some ideas of how to explore, or
exactly.
Or try that outfit on for size, and then let's talk about it and see if it resonated with you or not.
And maybe some people have no idea where to start. Okay, well, I can help you with that because, I can make even a whole series for you. But we're not going to say this is the series. And we're also not going to keep doing this forever. Maybe this is just a start as to give you an impression of what it could be. But at the end of the day, it's like, and even if you are a person who likes to use a build series, for example, in yoga, it's still how you are dealing with yourself going through that series. But eventually, I hope people are empowered to be able, and even if it's only 3 asanas and 10 minutes, but if you create it for yourself, I find it more profound than doing 2 hours practice made by somebody else. And, you know, I rather have somebody just start to create for themselves. Like it's like but for some people, it's a little bit more difficult than for others. Others are really open and curious about, let's do this. And for others, and you know, that's, you know, over time as a yoga therapist, we learn also the skill to help a little bit more here or there. But at the end of the day, the core of the project is you can do this yourself. And I think
that's so important to know what the end game is, because it really informs the beginning, the middle, and close to the end, right? That if the goal is self-empowerment and bringing people back to the center of their own universe, that's a very different goal than I need you to straighten your leg in this way, and I need you to take a 6-count inhale to please me. And, you know, that it's just a completely different paradigm that we're working with.
Totally. Yeah. It's just another thing. It's another thing.
I think it goes back to your experience in Chennai. The reason that we can trust, even after maybe we've had some childhood trauma around religion or cults or, you know, whatever it might be, even adult experiences in those areas, the reason we can trust is because we're coming back to self. We're not surrendering to a human that's going to control us. We're surrendering to ourselves and committing to being true to ourselves. That's just a whole different deal.
Yeah. So exactly. Beautiful. Yeah. Or something that's even bigger than myself. And I don't, you know, but that's maybe that is like we all, I think, have energies around us that are larger than ourselves, but they are like something connected to me, and it's larger, and then it's merging with your energy. Like we are kind of in each other's field, although we are thousands of miles away right now. You know? Yeah.
I feel it. it.
Yeah, me too.
We're getting close to the end of our time. I would love for people to know how they can be part of your field. Is this a current website?
Yeah, this is just my AnnekeSips.com. The network yoga therapy is another place. This is fine as well. This is just like a one-pager with some information about me.
So AnnekeSips.com, and then the other one is?
networkyogatherapy.com.
I'm going to pull that one up for you YouTube visitors. A lot of people don't know this, but now that we're having our year anniversary of this podcast, we're taking all of the podcasts to YouTube because some people prefer to watch them. So the people who are seeing this starting May 2nd, you're going to start seeing a lot of episodes from season 1 and season 2 on YouTube. And you can see Anneke's second website. It says, "For all who care, Network Yoga Therapy blends basic yogic knowledge, permaculture, nutrition, and modern insights logically for physical health, emotional wellness, and spiritual freedom."
Yes. Wonderful. So here, just information about me and about Network Yoga Therapy, the things that we offer are there. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So is there anything you'd like to finish with today, Anneke?
We seek health and we got lost in cures. I feel this was a problem that we were facing with. And more, I'm feeling the sentence, I am health and I am the cure. And I think this is something I would like to end this up with. Like, I'm wishing for everybody to be able to find, and even through another journey or whatever, but find their way home within themselves, especially in these challenging times for many people where mental health is, a little bit out of control, I see around me. And I hope I can inspire as many people as possible, and also through these kind of things like the podcast. So thank you very much for this stage, let's say. Yeah, so I hope that more and more people start to see that they are actually carrying the cure within themselves. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode with Anneke Sips from the Netherlands. I found it very nourishing, and everything that she talked about, I could so relate to. one of the little things I'd like to kind of circle back to is this idea of finding like clinics or ways to practice yoga therapy, maybe with insurance, maybe without insurance, but the kind of ability to have people come to a place for health and healing and beyond. By beyond, I mean spiritual connection. And how, if we get into the insurance game, some of that could be dictated to us. And I think Anneke and I both feel that we don't want to be told how long we have to work with the client, and if we have to cut it off after 11 minutes to move to the next one, that we want to work in an integrative and holistic way, but that it has to be financially sustainable to do that. And so I've been really kind of experimenting with ideas on how could that work. And one of the things that has been mulling around in my mind is that there are many centers out there already, addiction centers, wellness centers, hospitals that would love yoga therapy, but maybe they can't afford to pay full-time yoga therapists. So maybe there's a way for some of us that have yoga therapy schools. My school is called the Optimal State Yoga Therapy School, to have internship sites, because all of our students need 150 hours of practicum or internship. Maybe there's internship sites out there that would like to invite our students to either do telehealth, or if they're local, they could come in online. And of course, there would be some expense towards that, and there may need a grant to kind of oversee the administration of that. But I think it's a really good model to start contemplating. And we have many students that already work in healthcare centers and psychological centers that have started talking to me about this, like, hey, I'm getting paid at my job to do this work as a nurse, as a wellness coordinator, as a hospital director. I'd like to make this an internship site for Optimal State students. Are you interested? And I'm saying, yes, let's start that conversation. It's a win-win for everyone. So after Anneke and I stopped taping, she told me about some of her ideas, which I won't repeat here because she didn't give me permission to at this point. But she also has some really phenomenal ideas about how yoga therapy could start to enter into healthcare and into psychological services and create this win-win situation. Now, with that, she and I both agreed there needs to be abundance. I'm about 10 years older than her. And like her, I have been paddling my little heart out for about 25 years for yoga therapy, trying to catch the wave. I'm paddling. There's the wave. Where is it? I want to find it. And as she said in the podcast, what if we sat back like Lakshmi with open arms and said, I'm ready for the wave to carry me. And that's how I feel. I feel like I've put in a lot of great work, and I know many of you are in the same situation, and we are ready for opportunities to carry us that at the very least we can work together for, right? That we don't have to put in so much work and hurt our own selves, our nervous systems, our time with family, that there's got to be some wave-like quality that helps to carry us too. So just, setting that intention, as we talked about, to be carried, to allow ourselves to be carried, to surrender, and to know that the goodness is out there. So one of the ways that I would like to invite you to help carry this podcast, which has 5 people working for it, and it's 25,000 downloads now as of May 2022, and we're growing all the time. We want to create transcripts of each episode. We are expanding to YouTube now. We're taking many of the episodes from season 1 and season 2, and we're bringing them to YouTube so you can revisit them or use them in your curriculum with, anything that you're teaching. You could show some of them, and we have obviously wonderful experts all over the world. And so we have also started a Patreon page It's called Optimal State and Yoga Therapy Hour Patreon page, and we're asking for your support. We're asking you to be the wave that helps to carry us as we do this good work in the world. And we have different tiers from $4 a month all the way up to $20 per month, tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there's a lot of content in addition to audios and videos of the podcast. We have a lot of other content we'll be offering through and exclusive to the Patreon channel. In addition, we'll have some very special things just for you if you're a Patreon for us. So please enjoy being part of the wave that carries this Yoga Therapy Hour podcast. And we look forward to receiving that support from you. Thank you. Please don't forget to sign up for our newsletter mailing list, where we give you a free gift every single week. It's usually something that the guest has been talking about, like a book chapter or an article or an infographic. Check out the show notes for that. Thank you for listening today. Don't forget, we have a new YouTube channel called Optimal State with Amy Wheeler. We also have a new Patreon page where you can support us to bring you the most excellent content, and that is Optimal State and the Yoga Therapy Hour Patreon page. Also, you could write us a review on most major platforms that host podcasts. Give us 5 stars if you appreciate the show and tell us what you love so that we can do more of that. Finally, we support several nonprofit organizations through this podcast. See the show notes to understand how you can help. If you'd like to be a guest or a sponsor for this program, contact us at the email welcome@theoptimalstate.com. welcome@theoptimalstate.com. And finally, a special thank you to our team here at Optimal State. We are truly a global family. George Mantuan, one of our executive producers. Adam Satchel, senior media producer and sound engineer from the Philippines. Krishna Panchal, a producer from Canada. Modupe Abdullahi, who does the show notes and is an editor for us from Nigeria. And Peter Morley, who wrote and produced the music for this show, who lives in Australia. Find more about Peter's work at www.zenmusic.biz. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.